Hello, Ghost of Lilacs here to welcome you back to the $1,000,000 Pizza Challenge. This series was recorded after the 1.6 update. I'm playing on the Nintendo Switch with 0 mods. If you missed the previous episodes, here's a recap. There are many pizza-related Stardew challenges. This is my own with my own set of rules, which will be outlined in the description box below. All you need to know right off the bat is that my goal is to have 1 million gold cash on hand, not total earned. All of the rules are outlined in the description below if you'd like to take a closer look at them. Let's get started. The seasons had seemingly changed overnight when I awoke on day 1. The valley was bathed in a blanket of red and gold. Emily had a quest suggesting that I speak to everyone, and that would make them like me more. But I had other plans. I had purchased the dehydrator recipe from Pierre, and I wanted to craft a few of them. But I needed more fire quartz. I mined all day and only found one piece, but I wasn't going to let that discourage me. When I returned home, I crafted the second dehydrator and 2 cheese presses I would need once mozzarella and deep dish had matured a little. I also gathered up seeds in preparation for a planned expansion to my crop growing area. That would have to wait until tomorrow. I was all over the place on day 2. My beloved bovines had matured and produced their first milk. It was just little milk, but it doesn't matter because it was being made into cheese. I had all of the components to create pizza. I just needed the mill to ground the wheat. I would be able to obtain the cloth I need for the mill from the desert trader. That was something else that would need to wait. I started a new area for crops, much smaller as I don't intend to make any more sprinklers at this time. I had maxed out my farming skill over the summer, so now I had iridium sprinklers on my mind. I'd need to unlock the Calico Desert Bus community perk from Joja first. I'd like my pickaxe upgraded to gold and my combat and mining skill a little higher before that. When I went into town, Lewis and Robin were putting up the special orders board. I won't be focusing on these quests unless they're directly helping me toward one of my goals. Although hunting grubs in the mine isn't really going to make a huge difference raising my combat skill, I accepted it. I delivered a copper bar to Jody and gifted Penny a blackberry for her birthday. Haley observed that I smelled earthy, and although I was feeling unlucky, I ventured into the mines anyway. Gotta start bashing grubs. I found quite a few later in the evening. A bug I slaughtered dropped an ancient seed. As a pizza maker, I have no use for such things, so I'll donate it to the museum. I reached level 7 combat. On day 3, I was a pizza maker on a mission. After finishing up my farm chores, I was off to Clint's so the blacksmith could crush some geodes for me. I turned in the new bits to Gunther, who gave me an ancient seed and a recipe to make more. This will stay in my chest. I will not be planting it. I was thrilled to see some iridium ore turned up from one of the magma geodes. I already collected a few pieces from fishing chests and other geodes, so I was able to smelt them into my first iridium bar. It was time to finish up the grub quest from Clint. It was slow going until that afternoon when my luck changed. I completed the quest and found myself 6,000 gold richer. I hadn't visited the secret woods since summer, so I collected my hardwood and smashed slimes. I stopped by the statue of Master Cannoli and reflected on his words. Something sweet, eh? I'm sure that will reveal itself before the end of the season. Clint sent me a letter on the morning of day 4, including instructions how to craft a geode crusher. I harvested my wheat and headed to Robin's, where I asked the carpenter for an extra shipping bin and to upgrade my barn. I swung by the general store for more wheat seeds, 300 to be exact. Once the wheat was replanted, I was off to the mountain lake for some fishing. A fishing chest contained the book Jewels of the Sea, and now fishing treasure chests have a chance to yield roe. Upon reading it, I caught up quite a bit of carp roe. It was starting to get late and I was getting tired, so I headed home and crafted the geode crusher before heading to bed. I awoke on day 5 feeling all the love from little Blinky. After farm chores, I spent the morning fishing and then went into town. It was Elliot's birthday and I gave him a blackberry. I caught some salmon to finish up a fetch quest from Willie. I was looking for Willie in the saloon when Elliot walked in and we toasted our friendship. I left feeling a little tipsy. I turned in Willie's quest and had some prize tokens to also turn in. I received a book and 20 cherry bombs. The book was Friendship 101, and upon reading it, I have the ability to become friends with people a little faster. I stopped by the secret woods, and on the way, the traveling cart lady sold me a rare crow scarecrow. I did not sell my fish before turning in for the night, because I reached level 10 fishing. Fish are worth 50% more. If a fool and their money are soon parted, that made me a very foolish aspiring pizza maker on day 6. Before I could blow my hard-earned cash, I stopped to admire my larger barn. I went to Marnie's, and when I walked in, it was a sad scene. Shane's drinking was concerning, but apparently the best help I could offer was waking him up from a stupor with my watering can. Really? Anyway, it was time to buy goats. 2 goats, in fact. I named them Lil Caesar and Domino. I was up to Robbins to ask for another upgrade to my barn. The final upgrade. Once home, I crafted 2 more cheese presses. I see goat cheese in the future. I felt super lucky, so off to the mines I went. Tons of ore nodes, loads of gems, and one beastie dropped an iridium bar. Those are like gold at this stage of the game. Well, actually, those are like iridium because gold is like gold, but you know what I mean. All that mine time paid off as I reached mining level 9. I was awakened to the pattering of raindrops on my farmhouse roof on day 7. My greenhouse crops were ready to harvest, and I started a chest for items that I would put in my Grange display for the upcoming Stardew Valley fair. I made my way to the secret woods, where after battling slimes and chopping hardwood, I was on a mission for catfish. 3 of them, actually. Willie had a bulletin board request for them, and I was able to turn it in with little issue. The rest of the afternoon, I wandered around the deserted town. I found a little secret area next to Clint's where I discovered a golden trash bin that contained the Alleyway Buffet book. Reading this book grants me a greater chance to find items in the trash. I stopped by the bookseller and decided to save my money and chop down some of the trees before collecting a secret prize token. I exchanged it for a hat that I didn't really care for. I was in bed early that night, the pattering of the rain lulling me to sleep with its hypnotic lullaby. It was still raining when I awoke on day 8. Linus sent me a note asking me to help find his missing basket, as it was blackberry season. I will be gathering as many as possible for the foraging experience and free snacks on busy days. I was off to Robbins to request another silo. The grass situation was getting out of control, and I'd feel better having a second one. That sorted, it was down to see my best bud and buy 600 wheat seeds from Pierre. While in town, I picked up a special order request, Pierre's Prime Produce. Good friend wanted 25 Gold Star veg, and that was going to be a breeze. I stopped by Marnie's and decided against purchasing a pig right now. I just couldn't justify buying a baby pig, waiting 10 days for it to mature, only to sit in my barn eating my hay for a full season. Besides, I was saving the bulk of my money to unlock the bus to Calico Desert. I replanted my wheat and found Linus's basket. I returned the basket, and right under our noses was a diggy spot. I found Mining Monthly, and upon reading it, I gained some mining experience. It was time for my daily trek around the secret woods and down into Cindersap Forest. I foraged many blackberries, so many that I reached level 8 foraging. It was a breezy morning on day 9. I finished up my farm chores early and headed to Clint's so the blacksmith could open a mystery box for me. It contained some corn seeds. I also gave him my pickaxe to upgrade from steel to gold. I dropped off some goodies to Gunther, who gave me another rare crow scarecrow. I headed to the beach for some foraging, then off to the Cindersap Forest for more blackberry picking. I cleaned up a little of my farm and fixed up the area where I had my furnaces. On day 11, I had sunflowers, artichoke, and broccoli ready to harvest. One of the broccoli was gold quality, so I put it aside with an eggplant I had harvested from mixed seeds. These will be given to Pierre for his special order quest. I was back to the Cindersap Forest and Secret Woods to pick blackberries. I found the foraging skill one of the more difficult skills to level up, so this time gathering was well spent. I returned home and cleaned up a bit of my farm, adding hay to my second silo. I went fishing that night and caught the angler, one of the legendary fish. I held on to it as a memory of the fall. Someday I'll purchase a fish tank for it. Before turning in for the night, I reviewed my current stats. Hey, I'm doing pretty well for myself. There was a strong windstorm during the night. Day 11 offered a much-needed change of pace. My greenhouse crops were ready for harvest, and my baby goats, Domino and Lil Caesar, were all grown up and produced goat milk that I put into cheese presses. I was off to Robin's to have her move some of my farm buildings around and purchased a stable. A horse is included, and before you know it, I'll be galloping all over the countryside. I stopped up at the mines where, back in the spring, I had stashed a rhubarb pie that I had found in the saloon's garbage bin. I stopped by Clint's to pick up my gold pickaxe and brought the trash pie to Jody for a birthday present. She loved it. I scooped up the last of the blackberries and saw that a large tree had been damaged during the great windstorm. I would need 100 pieces of hardwood for repairs, but that was not something I could do while focusing on my pizza enterprise. Back at the farm, I rearranged my preserve jars and was up to the mines. I hadn't forgotten my desire for more fire quartz, and I found 3 pieces I crafted into dehydrators. Unfortunately, I had sold some of the peppers that I had meant to save for this purpose, but there will always be more peppers. I felt very lucky on day 12. My wheat was ready to harvest, and I had so many gold star veggies I was able to complete my buddy Pierre's prime produce special order quest. I was awarded 2,500 gold. I didn't waste any time getting to the mines. I was on a mission for one very simple artifact, a dwarf scroll. I had nearly enough money to purchase the Joja community upgrade to repair the bus to the Calico desert. There were a few things I was interested in, like jade farming for staircases, buying salads, but there was just one very important thing I was definitely going to need: explosives. I could always craft my own, but I'd rather buy them from the dwarf who resides just to the right of the entrance to the mines. I couldn't communicate with him until after I donated the final dwarf scroll to the museum. In all the time I spent in the iron levels of the mines, I hadn't come across it yet. So, with that as my sole mission, I got to work, killing enemies, hoeing up the dirt. I even found a gold bar in the dirt, which I wasn't expecting, but it wasn't until nearly 11 p.m. that a beastie dropped the scroll. I'll be dropping that off tomorrow and making friends with a dwarf. I had a new friend on my farm on day 13, a trusty steed I named Diane. I am so excited for her to help me get around a little bit faster. After farm chores, I had Clint break open some mystery boxes for me. The contents were all over the shop, with bombs, food, and miscellaneous goodies. I donated the dwarf scroll to Gunther, who awarded me the Dwarfish translation guide. As expected, it teaches you Dwarfish. I stopped by Pierre's to give Abigail a birthday present when the shopkeeper showed his true colors. He was trying to sell the gold star veggies I had donated to him at an outrageous markup. Gus wasn't happy, and Jody was big mad. Pierre was being a greedy guts, and I told him as much. He didn't like that, and then realized I was right. But then he turned around to try to get me to buy my vegetables back while making 1 gold profit. How pathetic. I gave Abigail her birthday gift, an amethyst. It made me happy to see her happy. It was time to meet the dwarf. I bought the Dwarfish safety manual, and now bombs deal 25% less damage to me. I also bought a rare crow scarecrow. Down to Joja I went and paid for the bus repair. Once I get to the Skull Cavern, I get iridium. Once I get iridium, I can help Willie with his secret project, and once that happens, I will be swimming in pineapple? The rest of the afternoon into the evening was spent in the mines. I would really like to max my mining skill and raise my combat level before venturing into the caverns that await, but I didn't have much luck today. That night, the bus was repaired, and I can already smell that dry desert air. Do you remember on day 10 when there was a windstorm during the night? Well, real talk from Ghost of Lilacs here. There was a bad windstorm tonight while I was recording, and I lost the first half of day 14. I'll show you some footage I was able to salvage from that day. I received a small shipping bin from Pierre. I brought it with me when I left for the desert, along with a chest to hold warp totems to my farm and a place to store some food for adventuring and for gems I would be trading with the desert trader. I arrived at the desert and stopped in Sandy's Oasis, where I purchased 10 beet seeds for a side quest I was interested in. Beets don't belong on pizza, but I'm not going to be selling them or making any financial profit from them. You'll see what I mean when the time comes. I went to the desert trader and exchanged rubies for spicy eel and jade for staircases. Both would prove beneficial to my mining adventure. I set up my chest and used the key I had found at the bottom of the mines. I entered the skull caverns. I had a really good run throughout the evening. In the future, I will bring more bombs and buy a bunch of salads from the saloon. I didn't have a set goal for the day aside from getting as much iridium as I could and gaining some combat experience. I really need a better weapon. I found a crystallarium, which I will use to farm jade for more staircases. I set it up at the farm and started smelting the iridium I found before heading to bed. I had a visitor on my porch on the morning of day 15. It was Jody, inviting me to have dinner with her family. I needed to stop by her house some afternoon with a largemouth bass. I thought that was a very thoughtful gesture to invite me like that. I checked my mail and had a letter from a mysterious Mr. Key. He challenged me to reach level 25 in the Skull Caverns. That wouldn't prove difficult. I could do that. My pumpkins were ready to harvest, and I sold all of them but two, one for a possible fetch quest and one for a definite quest I'd get from Caroline. I planted the beet seeds in their place. I sold the tomatoes in my greenhouse and was off to the mountains. I asked Robin to craft a mill for me so that I could process my wheat into flour. Tomorrow would be the Stardew Valley fair, so she'd start on it after that. I took the bus ride to the desert as it was Sandy's birthday, so I gave her a sweet pea flower. Good thing I unlocked the bus when I did. I spoke to the desert trader and exchanged 6 Omni Geodes for 2 desert warp totems. I can skip the bus fare and get there super early when I want. I putzed around in the Skull Caverns and collected 4 lousy pieces of iridium and some gems that I sold. Battling all those beasties paid off, though, as I reached combat level 8. The day of the Stardew Valley Fair had arrived on day 16. I had received a letter from Mr. Key congratulating me on making it to floor 25 in the Skull Caverns, and with it, 10,000 gold. My wheat was ready to harvest, but I ignored it and just scooped up the corn and broccoli. I was unsure if I had enough wheat seeds to replenish my field, and with the festival going on, I wouldn't be able to purchase more today. I checked in on my animals and emptied my grains display chest. I was off to the fair. Pierre was as unsufferable as always. I set up my grains display next to him, and while Mayor Lewis judged them, I talked to my neighbors. Well, would you look at that? I won! Aw, good friend Pierre wasn't too happy about that. Good. I was awarded 1,000 token thingies to trade in, but I needed double that to obtain a star drop. I played the slingshot game until I acquired enough. Then I played some more, and the fishing game to acquire another rare crow scarecrow from my collection. That night, I fell asleep with a smile on my face. On day 17, I was busy. I harvested and replanted my wheat field. The hot peppers were ready to harvest, and then I was off to Clint's to have my axe upgraded to gold. I dropped some goodies off at the museum and headed up to Joja to buy 400 wheat seeds. I saw Jody and Sam on my way out, and Sam commented that he smelled pizza. I'm not sure if he meant the food or my farm, and I was too afraid to ask. I mined the lower levels of the mine for a bit, working toward Marlin's slime eradication goal that wanted me to destroy 1,000 of the slimy fiends. If I can pull that off, I'll get the slime charmer ring, and the pesky buggers won't ever harm me again. That would be super helpful in the Skull Caverns. I realized that I hadn't looked at the special orders board, so I took a quick jaunt back into Pelican Town. Willie posted Juicy Bugs Wanted, so I scooped it up. I was going to be on a slime rampage anyway. I may as well take some of the bugs down with them. I found a prize token that I must have forgotten to pick up and was awarded a fish smoker. I'm not going to be using it, but it's nice to have, I guess. I returned to the mines to kill some bugs and left pretty late. There was a visitor on my farmhouse porch on day 18. It was Gunther, the museum's curator. He thanked me for all the donations and gave me a rusty key. I seem to remember something about a key in the sewers. I'll have to check that out. But first, I needed to check out my mill. I threw some wheat into it, and by tomorrow morning, I'll have flour. Flour sells more than wheat, so from here on out, all wheat will be milled before selling. My farm chores finished, I rode into town to check out the sewer grate, and would you look at that? The rusty key fits. I ventured below and met Krobus, a seller of rare and mysterious goods. He was selling a star drop, but I would come back for that another day. I needed to get the quarry unlocked, so I said goodbye to my new monster friend and was up to Joja to do just that. I'm hoping to find a prismatic shard up there that can be traded for the game's most powerful weapon. It was Marnie's birthday, so I gave her a sweet pea. I was back to the mines to work on Willie's quest. I left that evening with half of the bug meat I would need to complete it. That night, the bridge to the quarry was repaired. I reached level 10 mining and chose the prospector profession. The chance to find coal is doubled. Another visitor was on my porch the morning of day 19. Dang, I'm popular! It was Marnie, requesting a cave carrot to get her goats to say hello? That sounds a little strange to me, but I had a cave carrot set aside just in case someone would want to talk to one of their goats, so she was in luck. My mill was finished grinding my wheat into flour. I kept 100 and sold the rest. I harvested tomatoes from my greenhouse and picked up my gold axe from Clint. I bought a few big bombs from the dwarf and was off to the newly unlocked quarry. I was so excited. Surely there would be a special rock here that would have a prismatic shard, right? Right? Nope. There wasn't a prismatic shard waiting for me. I was so sure there would be, I hadn't even considered what I was going to do if there wasn't. In my frustration, I chopped down all the trees in the quarry with my newly improved axe. I felt rotten as I trudged to Marnie's. I dropped off her cave carrot and went into the secret woods to chop stumps. I went to the mines to work on the quest for Willie and unleashed my rage on the beasties. I killed them. I killed them all. They're dead. Every single one of them. And not just the bugs, but the slimes. And the crabs, too. They're like animals, and I slaughtered them like animals. I hate them. And then I went to the Adventurers Guild and picked up a cute hard hat I had earned by massacring Duggies. I checked the monster eradication goals, and I still had a ways to go, but tomorrow would be a new day. Day 20 was rather uneventful. I harvested the hot peppers in my greenhouse and finished up Willie's Bug Guts quest. On my way to drop them off, I picked up a slime hunter request from Mayor Lewis. I dropped off the guts, grabbed my prize ticket, and exchanged it for 5 artifact troves. I returned to the mines, killed the slimes, and got to bed very late. On day 21, my sweet gem berry was ready to harvest. I harvested and replanted my wheat, then put the wheat in the mill to grind it into flour. I wandered into the tunnel by the bus stop and put a battery pack into the fuse box. A note told me to put a rainbow shell in the box next to the train station. So I did. I was next told to put 10 beets in the mayor's fridge. I stopped by Robin's and gifted her a blackberry for her birthday. I requested a house upgrade that would add a kitchen to my humble hovel. I dropped off a pumpkin Caroline had requested. I put the beets in the mayor's fridge, and a note told me to give the sand dragon his final meal. I stopped in the saloon and turned in the slime slaying request to the mayor and purchased 100 salads from Gus. I was off to the desert, where I put a solar essence in the mouth of the sand dragon. A final note told me to check the wood pile next to my house. Mr. Key certainly has a lot of free time on his hands if he has time to set up these ridiculous quests. It was time to go to the secret woods, where I offered Master Cannoli, the sweet gemberry. His eyes glowed like he had turned to the dark side, and he presented me with a star drop for my efforts. I felt like I was filled with unlimited power. I finished up a ghost-slaying quest from the wizard. I would turn that in the following day. I went to bed with the realization I had forgotten to check my woodpile. I'd have to do that tomorrow. On the morning of day 22, I remembered to check my woodpile, where I found a club card. I would need to travel to the desert oasis on a good luck day to use this. I found a slime hunter request when I went into town, and I accepted it. I also picked up a special order from the wizard, a curious substance. I needed to hunt ghosts, and one of them would drop an ectoplasm. I traveled to the wizard's tower and turned in the ghost hunting request from the day before. I was off to the mines to kill some slimes. Once finished, I turned in the request to Lewis. I had a prize token from the wizard, and I redeemed a houseplant. I was on a ghost hunt, but all I found were skeletons. I killed so many that I earned a skeleton mask, but not one ghost made their presence known. The morning of day 23 was spent in my greenhouse harvesting my tomatoes and hot peppers. When I went into town, I picked up an iron ore request from Clint, which is perfect as I'm going to be grinding the iron floors while ghost hunting. I found a handful of ghosts, but no ectoplasm. I did, however, find 5 jade that I will be giving to the desert trader in exchange for staircases. I awoke on day 24 in a much larger version of my farmhouse. I now had a kitchen to cook pizza. If only I knew how. I moved some of my furniture around and decided to make 2 more crystallariums to farm jade from my staircases. I didn't have much to do on the farm, so I visited Robin and moved my silos so there would be room for the anchovy fish pond she would build for me. I went into town and I accepted a copper request from Clint. It was George's birthday and I gifted him a hot pepper. I turned in Clint's request from yesterday and had him upgrade my watering can to gold. I had him break open the artifact troves, mystery boxes, and a few geodes. Among the goodies were another ancient seed, a golden pumpkin, and some artifacts I hadn't donated to the museum. I went to the mines and found copper for Clint. I'll turn that in tomorrow. I did not find the ectoplasm, and I'm not going to keep looking. That would be the last day of fall that I spent in the mines. On day 25, I harvested my wheat. I would not be planting more as it would not be ready to harvest before the end of the season. I placed the last bit into the mill to turn it into flour. I saw Clint about the ores I had found for him and was awarded a prize token. I received the Woodcutter's Weekly book and gained some forage experience. I went to the docks to do some fishing where Willie was utilizing the bug bait I had brought him. He taught me how to craft a quality bobber. I fished the rest of the afternoon, and after the sun went down, I returned to my farm to clear some trees. I had a letter from Mayor Lewis on the morning of day 26 reminding me of the upcoming Spirits Eve festival. After finishing some farm chores, I was off to Jojamart to purchase the final community upgrade. That will remove the glittering boulder near the mine entrance and open up panning. I picked up my gold watering can and gave Clint my hoe to upgrade. I stopped by the sewers and purchased an iridium sprinkler and stardrop from Krobus. I fished in the mountain lake and caught a largemouth bass, which I took to dinner at Jody's. I cleaned up my farm a bit before turning in early. That night, the glittering boulder disappeared, and I reached Foraging level 9. I was feeling lucky on day 27 and headed to the Skull Cavern. Well, I had to return back to the mines first to buy some bombs from the dwarf. Whoops, and then I headed in. I mentioned buying 100 salads on day 21. This was the time to use them. For very little money, they provided a fair amount of healing. In early afternoon, I slayed a ghost, and guess what it dropped? Ectoplasm. I had given up on the wizard's special order quest, but now I'd be able to turn it in. I mined very little iridium before returning to my farm. It was time for the Spirits Eve festival in town, where I bought a rare crow scarecrow and braved the hedge maze where I was awarded a golden pumpkin. It was day 28. Fall was coming to a close with winter right at my doorstep. I received a letter from Willie saying he unlocked the back room of his shop, but I didn't have time to stop by today. I headed for the Cindersap Forest and delivered the ectoplasm to the wizard. I was back to Skull Caverns. I traded in my quartz for bombs, rubies for spicy eels, and jades for staircases before descending into the darkness. I made it to level 77 and left with over 70 pieces of iridium to smelt. I reached level 9 combat. I'm going to leave it here, and I'll be back for winter. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more of it, please like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you'll be notified when a new video comes out. Please leave your comments and suggestions down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.